thank you everybody for staying this late and running through the rain to come to this room and ignoring the yacht over there. We're the only panel today. And I think what's interesting is that as you have heard a lot about, different developers, what the platform offers. But at the end of the day, as a developer, how many people are, sorry. How many people are actually, we've been asking that. How many people are actually developing the blockchain game? Some, okay. Yeah, I know some of your platform, right? And then what do you think the funding is important? Is funding important for you? Raise your hand if you think so. Don't just nod. Nobody can see you nodding. There we go, yeah? Yeah, okay, so that's the same to any game development, right? And how do you fund the game? How do you get funding? I think what we're gonna be talking about is kind of unique in the way that in the blockchain space, how the investors can be participating. And I had earlier talk about your player, your owner, be part of the investor and own your success with your team and with your game. So we're going to be talking from the investor point of view as well. And I myself, because DOGI is a platform, and we certainly play a role, sort of like in between, we match the teams, investors together, and doing the investment to the, try to find the funding for the early stage teams. So we got 3 panelists on our panel today, and I think that you all have been doing investment on the blockchain games. So that's very rich of collection of experience, and they have seen a lot of the games around. So here's LK, Junie, and Nogi. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys do a little bit of self-introduction here.
Cool. Hi, I'm LK Shirley. I'm a managing partner of Affinity Ventures. So we are a tech VC fund with a focus in the digital media and entertainment. We're globally distributed in San Francisco, Europe, and Asia. We're not a game, nor a blockchain fund. And to us, blockchain is a tech, and it's kind of like database or cloud tech. So we're really interested in new use cases, new value add, rather than sort of looking at blockchain game as a category. So we're always looking for something innovative usage of the technology to make for game to be more entertaining or more valuable.
Right. Thank you. And game has been proven to be always the one at the front and pushing any technology to the, right, to the population.
I wouldn't say we are expert in the gaming space, but we've been active in the gaming space for 3 to 4 years. Mm-hmm. We know the mobile space pretty well, and then for blockchain, we have been active for over a year plus. So we understand, the business case and all that enough to be dangerous. But one thing I would like to say is I really like the last presentation because really talk about what blockchain can add value or not add value to the game.
Yeah, very cool. And we're going to come back and to talk about some of the case studies that they each have been doing. Mm-hmm. Junie?
So I am partner at Blockcrafters Capital, and it's a pure crypto fund. We receive Ethereum from our LPs and deploy Ethereum to ICO projects. Okay. At the same time, we have a subsidiary called Blockcrafters, or I guess a sister company called Blockcrafters, which is an acceleration, media, and marketing play on usually post-ICO related, or so media and marketing for post-ICO projects, acceleration and consultancy for pre-ICO projects. Yes.
Oh, that's very cool. But you're talking about, so you invest in what, only tokens, or you invest in, like you said?
So we do not invest equities.
Right,
only tokens, yes.
Okay. And how big is the asset you're managing right now?
Up to now, we were established in March this year in Singapore. Okay. Mm-hmm. We've deployed about 10,000 Ethereum. Okay. It used to be $10 million. Now it's about $2 million now. That's okay. but that's how the market is. Yeah. And we're most of the funds are not investing, but we've been investing like 3 weeks ago as well, and 2 weeks ago as well. So I think we're pretty.
It's a good market to buy.
I think so too.
And Nogi.
Hi, this is Nogi from Gumi, and I'm in charge of global business development and then San Francisco office. And then, as you probably know, Gumi is actually a mobile gaming company, HQ based in Tokyo. They have 850 employees and then public company. The mobile gaming is it's good, it's going well. And then since 3 years ago, we jumped into AR/VR space, and then we established a fund. It's a $50 million US dollars size fund in San Francisco. And then we also run incubation acceleration program, Tokyo, Seoul, and here Helsinki. And then since last year, we jumped into blockchain space, and we established another fund called Gumi Cryptos. That's a 50 million US, 30 million US dollars size fund. And we have already invested 9 companies since this year.
Okay.
And then we also...
How is that equivalent to Ethereum? How many? 10,000?
No, actually, we only counted fiat. But
Okay.
in total investment is still 3 million.
Okay.
And then...
But you invest in fiat or both?
Both.
Okay.
And we also, basically we targeting token, but it's early stage. They don't issue token yet. That's why it's convertible.
Right.
And then we targeting early stage. Then average check size is 250 to 1 million.
Okay.
But we haven't invested blockchain game yet. But we are tracking games because we are a gaming company.
Okay.
And then I think big difference from those two guys is we are business company, gaming company. That's why we mainly do strategic investment.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a
strategic.
big difference.
Okay. So you guys all have opportunities, okay? Create a good game. He'll invest.
We might
And
take a
she'll
publishing
invest.
rights.
And he'll buy the tokens, right? Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about why is a investment. You know, these investors, they have been doing the conventional other type of format of investment. Why is blockchain investment different from your conventional, used to be heavy fiat, you know, equity? Because it's related to the thinking for the developers. Why is it a good time to pursue the funding instead of going to the conventional, whether it's a fiat or a token, right? And then I think there's something disruptive about that. And then if you care to share, because you do both kind of.
Yeah, so we are sort of traditional VC fund, right? So we do mostly equity in the past, but then last year we started looking into the token investment, and there's definitely quite a big difference, right? Like when you look at equity, we are looking at very long-term relationship, right? So you start at this early stage, and then you try to follow on with the companies and hopefully help them to build up to the level where there could be big enough for exit opportunities. Not that, has to be sell or whatever, but that's the goal, to make them bigger. But then in terms of, blockchain, token is one of the method, right? And essentially the way we look at it is gaming has a very good fit with the token economy by nature, right? The virtual currency system has always been in place, especially with the free-to-play games. And so since we started looking into the gaming for a few years already, and initially we weren't interested in blockchain because we are not interested in fintech. If it's a payment system or whatever application, that's not of our interest. But when it comes to integrating the token to be part of the utilization, then it becomes more attractive. And then there's sort of dilemma in terms of investing in gaming is that gaming has a very short cycle, right? If you invest in a company which could be the next Supercell of the world, of course, everyone is, golden. But it's really hard to find that, right? So to us, it's a middle ground solution. It has sort of liquidity, in a more near future than pure equity basis. However, I think that the liquidity is kind of a blessing and a curse, because it's actually ruining whole sort of like business development in a sense, right? The value just now, I think Tony mentioned that could drop tremendously depending the type of application or the type of audience you have, right? Like if there are not super sophisticated investor, then they will liquidate, they will exit fast. Or there are like the trader type of investor, they really speculate the market, and then it really kind of ruined the value of the true value of your company. So we still continue to do the hybrid model. We're not going to completely just bank on the token side, but I think if the company or the product itself has true application, applying token into part of the economy, part of the product, I think there's a lot of future value, regardless how fluctuate the current market is. Obviously now, we hold Ether as a kind of a currency for investment, but it's almost like you keep your money in USD or Euro. Now, Ether or whichever cryptocurrency you hold, the currency, what we call like the foreign exchange risk, is way higher than like regular investment. So that is something, a factor we have to put in our modeling as well. So it's very difficult, to be honest.
And it is also reflected from the development, also from the developer teams, right? There are being 1,500 games, a lot of them crappy. So there are weeds in both sides.
Yeah.
The development teams and the games and also investors. So all these weeds, again, I think they're going to be filtered out. And then what you get into is more sophisticated games, and only the investor, they have a little bit longer vision that get to stay, because they can take the risk a little bit longer rather than cashing out immediately, right?
And to add, again, we don't only invest in gaming. We did invest in ICO in other category like social media and some other sort of infrastructure layer of a token. And though has been doing fine, we're not like super we're not investing huge amount in token or like blockchain yet, but so far, we're kind of okay. We're not negative yet. So.
What about you, Yuni?
So what was the original question again?
Why do you think, why is this disruptive in terms of the current cryptocurrency investment versus the traditional vehicle of getting fund or investing, right? Because you have to go to a lot of roadshow, you have to do your business plan, which is not exactly the strengths of many of the small team founders, right? They just want to do games. And so with the crypto games, it's kind of like a bypass, but it's also a way to open up the different channels for the teams to get funded.
So I think a few things are mixed up. Like from a project's or a game, like a developer's point of view, I think most of the people out there that are interested in blockchain and cryptos is because they think it's an easy way of raising money. At the same time, you'll see that a lot of the crypto funds think it has a very, very fast liquidation cycle. So, but I think it's just it's like if you put everything together and generalize things on what it seems, that's how it's going to look like. But if you boil it down to details of how crypto funds or developers are approaching from their point of view, everyone has different strategies and everyone has different values they deliver. So like if a fund invests in a crypto, in an ICO, and let's say it's in the exchange in the next 3 months and they decide to liquidate everything, and then people will think, oh, they dumped everything. But actually a dump is when a crypto fund just puts all their crypto stock on the exchange and sells everything regardless of how the market is behaving to that, right? So if somebody dumps and then the price of that token goes down like this, then that's a dump. But you can also liquidate seeing how the charts move and not intervene with how the market is moving, right? So that is what you call a liquidation strategy. And if a crypto fund is doing that, but have been very helpful in your ICO private sale raise or public sale raise, I don't see that as a bad crypto fund. But saying that is difficult from a crypto fund's perspective because you don't want to give the image that you're someone who's going to liquidate fast. right?
Right,
So
right.
if we invest in an ICO that we think is going to last for a long term and will give us a long term return,
Sure.
we'll keep on, hold on to it, right? So
Right. But the
Right.
argument is to conventional fund that you have to wait for IPO. I mean, how many Facebook or how many Amazon, right? But with this, liquidation does offer some benefit.
Can I add one thing? So
Okay, quick, because
very
we haven't
quick.
got to know
One thing is that, I think the liquidity, it depends on where you put it, right? Like if it's like an open exchange, actually I don't like it, right? I think if there's like a sort of like self-economy built into the, let's say if it's a game, right? People can exchange and then they can buy and sell products, and then that means that the product is running, the service is working.
Sure.
Then it's fine, right? But it's like just pure, currency USD would change to, euro.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. Right?
Yeah, so those kind of investors, they cash out and then, it's not for the long term. But we really wanted something that can be a little bit more sustainable, right? Nogi, what's your
Yeah,
thought?
so one of the reasons we decided to start the blockchain fund is we can just cash out earlier than the stock. This is a big
then
reason.
IPO there is
Yeah, but
benefit, yeah.
fundamentally, our focus is actually not a cryptocurrency, more like a blockchain technology.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why we also do the long-term investment. And then I think, as you guys know, but maybe those people don't know, last year, so many companies did the ICO, but even not a blockchain company. Hey, ICO, just for the funding reason, right?
Right.
And then some pig farm, like a marriage, like a matching website, something, they just don't blockchain companies ICO for the only for the funding. But since this year, those companies gone.
Right.
And then
You just got to weed out those.
yeah, and the existing company just try to ICO, implementing token in existing business. That also doesn't make sense because it doesn't match. And then recently, pure blockchain, like a token company, tried to ICO. But still, as long as we see do the due diligence, their business model, also token economics, still doesn't work. That's where I really see that business model and the token economics. This is actually very close to the equity investment. It's very close to it. And then US ICO also trying to say security token is going to be same as stock, right? That's why it's going to be more secure in the market. And then it's also going to be a little bit more difficult to ICO in the future.
Right. So the distinguish between the utility tokens and the security token, you have to be very careful traversing that landmine. And then whether you use it and if it's any crossover. Let's say you said, okay, your user, you reward them because they participate in the usage, their attention with a token. But then you say, okay, you can use this token, to buy some other service. Then you kind of get into the gray area that naturally every government, every region want to regulate. So it is something that you want to be very careful about. But we talk about this investment vehicle. But then let's talk about that. How is it different when you look at the teams, the development teams, or whether they are building game-related platform or a special, secondary market or the auction, so on and so forth. Are you looking something different? Because I can use a DOGI for example, because we are a platform and we plan to help at least bridge like investor and the development team. But we have to be very careful as a platform because we're in the middle bridging that. So I personally and my team, we have to actually do a lot of DD. We have to know you. We have to know your track record. We have to know that you're somebody who can deliver and you got a good IP idea that you have proven that you are able to deliver. And we have met so far almost all the blockchain developers. They are actually experienced. They have done a lot of other development. And that gives me assurance that, hey, they can deliver something. But it is, that part of DD is inevitable, all in the world, because you want to trust the developers. You want to make sure your investor can trust them. But by the same token, you want the investors that you bring into the pool to say, hey, we know these teams, we know these guys, they have integrity, they can deliver. So what about your cases? Because we talk about maybe give some case study or your cases, and how do you go about finding the teams that they eventually decide to invest?
I think our process is the same. We're pretty old school. We do the same thing like as if we were investing in the venture equity investment. So Actually, the past token investment that we've done, most of them actually we knew the team from before they started thinking about the blockchain strategy.
Okay.
So we did our DD before. We already know their sort of capability and also the overall product development plan and all that stuff. So then we participate basically in the token rather than the equity. So that's process-wise the same for us. It's
Okay.
the same DD process.
So, okay, so we know that it's still going through. So let's, for example, if I have this one, right? So I'm saying, hey, Junie, I know this team. I'm bringing it to you. So as a middle person, I'm referring some team to you. What would you be looking for? What would you scrutinize from me?
So, like, I think it's related to how we're built up as well. Because, I mean, we're a fairly new fund. And when we were jumping into this space, we investigated how other crypto funds are made up. And we looked into the space and we identified some verticals. So we need a money guy coming from financial. So we have a VC guy who's been investing in VC scenes for about 5 years. We have a tech guy who's a full stack engineer who'll go into GitHubs and like everything, even up to does the CTO have experience of running a team that is bigger than 10? And can they actually grow it up? I'm the global business guy, so I'll basically look into the partnerships and do some assessments, asking connections of his LinkedIn friends and see if I know any and ask like how they think they are. We have a token economy expert, a PhD in physics and business at the same time, which is a rare find. We have an in-house lawyer, certified lawyer. We have it's a funny thing, but it's a token influencer who's been in the Korean ICO reviewing scene, #1 guy. And we have 2 guys who've been building up businesses, like 8 companies in the past 8 years, from seed round to a few exits and AB rounds.
So they know how to grow it.
So that is 8 partners in the company that needs to agree on this investment. So every single one of them do their DD from their perspective. So like if there's a tech guy who'll boil you down with all the tech-related reviewing, someone will look into the financial side. The influencer will look into all of the crypto-related stuff because he's up to date with the trend and he's the one who usually talks about why blockchain. But all these perspectives and the lawyer looking into the SAFT agreement all the time. So it's a heavy due diligence.
Yes, it is. So other than the conventional, what the smart money you call it, the VC brought in the value to you, but blockchain again very different. Is that then we're experiencing the same thing. Nogi probably knows also the token economics, right? You as a founder or you develop a game, you better understand your token economics. If you don't, we'll find you somebody who knows and give you advices. And legality also, how do you do that? Somewhat involved in the legality as well. So this token economics, I find out, is the most lacking in many of the development teams that I've been talking with. And some of the teams figure out it because the founders, even though their strength is producing games, but they spend the time to understand the fintech part of it. So all of you guys need to learn, more or less. I'm forced to learn about it as well. So that part, and the way you do marketing, it's the influencer marketing. This morning I forgot to mention, influencer marketing is extremely crucial, and that's one channel that we're looking, because the traditional user acquisition, conversion is going to be really, really low. But the influencer marketing, it's potentially a huge space to go in. Nogi, what do you think is big difference?
So, the due diligence standpoint, I think it's same as equity investment, because we focus on early stage investment, and then they don't have a product. That's why we seriously check the team, also team background. It's very important. And this is the most important things.
But do you rely on somebody you know, or you rely on some deal sourcing
Yes,
as well?
and this is actually big difference from the equity investment. Then you had a syndicate, right? And the crypto people started say syndicate.
Right.
They have their own network, like the BC network,
Right.
and then they share the deal flow. Because like I say, there's so many sketchy companies since last year. That's why we cannot trust anymore.
Right.
Then we only can trust like some of who are very close and then very good PC, some of the good team like this. But we are 30 million fund is actually not big in the crypto space, and then we actually run a couple of people run the fund right now, and then we don't have a white paper leading team, but some fund big ones has it. That's why we work together and they share the deal flow. That's very important for us. Also, like I said, team. And then if they don't have like token, no one have a token, no one knows the token economics. But if they have like a good advisor who knows the token economics, those are very important. That's why for the startup people, they should have like strategically have a good advisors in there, in the team.
Yeah. That's very valuable. So really get to know your investor and seek out help that you don't know. If you don't know token economics, admit it and don't fake something because other people, I mean, they've been looking at a lot of cases. I myself look at some cases, and then I look for people who are truly believe in embracing the blockchain and how they build into the game for the long term to engage the user, to retain the user. You got to be brilliant in order to do that successfully.
Since we started token investment, so the game token gonna be the upside down, right? That's why token economics should be the scalable. That's what we're seeing. But some who never build a token economics, we don't invest, right? But if there's someone who are like experienced people or advisor, it's much better to make a decision.
How much time we have left? 10 minutes. You know what? How about we open the floor, let people, I think many of you want to ask questions, and maybe we can better address, through other. Yeah, go ahead. What's your name? Chris. What are you doing? You developing game or?
Yeah, we're working on a platform called Horde. So it's enabling true ownership in video games. We also have an exchange, so people can spend the items in their game in the real world. Yeah, there's a crowdfunding platform as well. My question is, this might be more for Junie, but it's open to all of you guys. How do you think about investing in tokens, like fungible tokens versus non-fungible tokens as a strategy?
So we do not, up to now, we do not invest in any ELC 721s. So I guess that would be the straightforward answer to you. It really depends on what they're based on and where it's coming from. I would like to get a lot of more ideas regarding how you could basically develop an investment into ELC 721s. But the reason up to now is basically we do not, I've been in games for the last 13 years. And I led a global Korean games company called Come To Us on their global business side. And it went from a significant team to an IPO, and it's a $2 billion company now. But the only thing that if you take everything out that is important when it comes to games is the virtual items only mean something if the game is good, or if the game has enough user base that will value the virtual items that are on it. So I think that is the core mentality I have with that question. Yeah.
Is there anything in particular that you might be looking out for in terms of a non-fungible asset that you would jump at, something that you kind of are curious about but haven't seen?
Up to now, I think there's one, there's a few projects that I've been looking into, but there was a project that was actually linked to fashion goods. Like how could, for instance, Chanel's and Louis Vuitton's could like sell like virtual items with their brand on it. And how could they keep up the price of these virtual goods, and how could they limit the numbers and blah, blah, blah. So it was an interesting approach. And there was also another project that was actually providing a platform of linking a user-created or a developer-created virtual item, where using that platform, you could stick a Nike brand on top of it, and you know they'll take out all the middle layers. You wouldn't have to go to Portland to talk to Nike about it, and it would just fast stream. And at the same time, they will all know where the brands are used and what value they bring, and they'll split. So projects like these were interesting, but I mean, up to now, I think those are the ones that we did look into. The last one was called Epic Token. We did not, we became a little more conservative because of the market situation. So there were a few of us that were against it. So we didn't end up investing in it, but I personally like that one. So yeah. That's cool.
So I have seen some developers and then crypto game developers, and they were doing VR games. So they carry some of their own user communities that follow them, right? May not be huge, but they carry their own IP. So from their IP, they have developer user following. So that would be a very nice migration to do the blockchain. Obviously, blockchain don't come to your life on blockchain games only. If you have other IP, go ahead, do it, cash cow, so on and so forth. But it's worth trying. And the way they put in, again, the concept of the token, finding your users and getting them, retaining your user. And it's very effective. I think in the beginning, it's going to be lightweight. It's not going to be like MMORPG kind of really heavy duty kind of games. But the best cases so far in the crypto games is a sandbox, user-generated content, and allowing, this type of game, user-generated content, allowing the ones that create the content to bring to you, allow them to monetize on that as well. And the second one is the city builders, right? You sell the land, you sell the apartment in Beijing, blah, blah, blah. But the third one is also, the third one, I keep forgetting. Card game kind of thing, collectibles, right? I mean, the pet game is always, very popular. You collect the kitties or dogs or a giraffe or whatever. People always love pets, but there are so many copycats. But you know what? Copycats aside, there's always somebody, all of a sudden, creative, being a copycat, but just innovate on that and become, look at Flappy Bird, right? Very successful. So there are ways that you develop it, but you need to figure out a way on your own before you burn investors' money to find your users, right? I always ask the team, how are you going to find your first 10,000 users without burning our money, right? If you're the investor, you got, 500,000, people say, hey, can you invest? What would you be asking for, right? So you got to figure out a way to find that. In community, if you have a small team, you don't have money, but you still can find out a way to gather around your community. That's very key. We're looking into the ability.
I think we're quite excited about the NFT space, but it really depends on how you apply it, right? It's all about business case. Of course, there's a lot of technical aspect to it, but not that I'm not. CryptoKitty is interesting, but it's kind of the early cycle of it, right? And then we do believe that if there's a tie or there's context come along with the game itself, so if it's a digital collectible, if there's a tie back to a proper game sort of gameplay and all that, that would add much more value and stickiness, right? You can look at CryptoKitty, it had a pretty good spike, but then it dropped pretty fast because, what can you do with the kitty, right? Can you make it a poster, or what are you going to do with it, right? But there's collectible, market, in the traditional world already. So, but then if you actually tie it back with a game, with a gameplay sort of feature to it, at the same time, you can also spin it out and then create a digital collectible universe on its own. Then I think it's very interesting. So, but it's really how you actually go about implementing it and make sure it's interesting, new, innovative use cases, but not going to disrupt your user, as in make your user puzzle how to actually make it a fun gameplay. So it's a tricky one.
What would you be? Oh, well, let me ask. Anybody with burning questions?
Thank you, guys.
You got more questions? Oh, no. Okay. Anybody
Maybe
else?
afterwards we can chat.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Since nobody else. Anybody else? Come on, you've been here.
Let the sandbox guys talk.
Oh, okay. He raised his hand.
On the block.
He raised it. He's gonna be. Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jan. I'm in casual games industry, and I'm totally new to blockchain. I know very little of it. However, I see it as a quite complex thing. And don't you think that basically its complexity could become a blocker of reaching its masses? Because I mean, especially in gaming, you can imagine that casual games, they've reached masses. That's why it became successful. And do you see such potential for the blockchain technology in the game?
I think you have a point there. I mean, if you think about it, iPhone, I mean, it wasn't, all the technology of making an iPhone was already there. Apple did a good job of getting all that together and making it very simple to use, right? So yes, a really well designed UX, even for blockchain, is most necessary. But it doesn't mean all that complexity goes away. They need to build the simplicity on top of that complexity. So if somebody can do it, they should, please, right? So, yeah.
But on the flip side, I also agree that it's a good question, because I think a lot of time these days, like developer, is only in two camps. Either it's all blockchain or zero, right? But I think games now should be not, it has to be optional. It's you can't force people to have either to play your games, otherwise you really limit your potential, right? So it's a mechanism where it could enhance the game value in the long term, but it shouldn't force it, or you are just focusing on the early adopter, which could be fine, but you're not really make a highly commercializable game.
Crypto game is not to replace or your mobile game, PC game. It's another form of the game, and most of the gameplay is so complex, so dynamic. You don't need to keep on the chain. It's a payment, it's a premium, engaging the user. That you keep something on your public chain or your side chain. It's to understand the whole economics and how that's a complex part of it. The game, like she said, the design of the game, you're gonna have to figure out the thing anyway, right? Coding itself is not that hard. I myself came from the coding background. Come on, it's distributed database system, it's a cloud, big deal. Coding is not that hard. Do it, don't think about it. Try it.
So, have you checked a website called the DAP Radar, the DAPRADER? And then you can see the all top blockchain game DAU, and then right now top game their DAU is just 500.
Someone was telling us DAU is about 1,000. It's very high. I'm like,
yeah, I just confirmed with CryptoPedia everyone. There's a real data is a yes.
Yeah, it's like a
But a good point is that ARPU is quite high, like $300 something.
Yeah,
That's a blockchain game at the moment.
In the beginning of mobile game,
Yeah,
who
yeah,
would
the
play
same,
mobile
same.
game? You're supposed to just make a phone calls on your phone. You're not supposed
Yeah. DAP Radar, DAAP. Yeah.
Yeah, DAP Radar. So, the most of you can get a lot of technical questions about this one is a Medium, Telegram, and Discord. Okay? Okay, thank you
Yeah.
very much. I was told I need to go.